welcome to the Tax Report News Roundtable. Today we got Kurt with RiskRevu. He designed a really slick, onboarding kind of document system for personal lines and kind of exploring a few other features. But thanks for joining us, Kurt. Looking forward to hopping into it. Thanks, Nick, as always, too. Yeah.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, I didn't realize you guys had done a profiles and risk, a little ways back and did a demo and everything and kind of hopped in the system. That's cool.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and
nice.
Go through the whole demo. It was nice.
Yeah. How are things with RiskRevu?
Things are going great. So we launched in August, and we have 15 agencies that are using the platform at this point, and over 60 users of the platform. We put new forms up all the time. So there's a lot of engagement, a lot of questions from our existing users. So we're just continuing to improve it and spread the word. So everything's going great.
Yeah, proud user here. I want to start linking in the forms to buttons on my website more often. I always thought that was cool.
Before you go into that, Brett, why don't we, between the both of you, why don't you just give a quick summary for those that are listening that may not know what RiskRevu is? We could put a link to my podcast with Kurt, but why don't you guys talk about it? Kurt, what is RiskRevu?
Great, thanks, Nick. So RiskRevu is a platform I built for insurance agents that provides pre-built digital forms for them to use with clients, vendors, partners, and other people involved in the sales and service process. And the types of forms that we build for agents include quote forms, renewal questionnaires, and various service forms. An example of a service form would be if a client is picking up a new car and we need to obtain information about that car. Typically, we'd go through a series of questions over the phone with the client or type them in an email. This way, we can just send a form to the dealer or the client, have them fill out the form very quickly and get all the details we need rather than going back and forth. So it saves a lot of time. We are constantly looking for new ways, new forms to build. So any process that is done via phone or a PDF or fillable PDF can be transitioned into a digital form, and that's what we're doing. And then we open up those forms to all of our users to use with their clients. And I think one of the best things about RiskRevu is that everybody in the agency has their own forms that are branded to them and are returned to them, rather than, I think, my agency used to have one repository of forms and they would all go to one person. They'd have to distribute them to everybody. This way, everybody has their own forms and they send it to their client. Client fills it out, it comes right back to them. So we're really taking the digital forms, especially on the personal line side, which is really doing well for me in my practice and my agency. But so that's really the focus, is building digital forms for personal lines insurance to make our lives easier and the process more efficient.
I think it's
right. You're a customer.
Yeah.
Explain. How are you using it?
Yeah, I think it's really slick how you can put your own contact information on your portal and then how it's individualized. Just looks classy. It looks a step beyond what the average agent's going to be doing. I've got a good friend I've been talking with a lot lately that's on the benefits side, and he just does everything online, and people are impressed by that. It's enough to win business. Yeah, I could see the same thing being a huge help for personal lines. But as a smaller shop that's tied into a bigger entity, it's fun to have forms that help you look, top class, and the price point's $100 for a year. You're going to make that back in one policy. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yep. No, I agree. We have one agency that uses the platform and they do health insurance, and they were able to use it for their enrollment period. I think, in 1 week they used the health form 74 times. So it was quite a big game changer for them. Another agency said that they were able to save their service team 70% of their time on certain tasks. So, a very simple concept. And I know there's a lot of agencies that have done this on their own, where they've built their own digital forms and they've spent a lot of time doing that and have found the benefits from that. And I thought, there's a lot of people that don't have the time to do this. And so let's build something so people can just plug and play, and literally, overnight or, within an hour or two, they can start sending forms to their clients and saving time. So
I've built forms and I'm usually missing something and the interface isn't as clean. What I liked about your platform is it's basically like getting to lean on an expert too. It's getting to lean on somebody with a lot of industry knowledge to help you, kind of go in with the right information up front. So you're not circling back 3 times and think the customer kind of hates you by the time you actually get the quote to them,
Right.
Not hate you, that's probably overly dramatic, but.
No, I hear you. And one of the things too with a lot of these forms is conditional logic. There's so many if-thens that go, in a conversation with clients, and, having a real understanding of insurance, as I do, as my team does, really helps build out these forms to a different level. Because you can, anybody can take a PDF and take the question and say, okay, name field, email field, phone field, whatever the address field. But it comes, knowing the conversation that we as insurance agents have with our clients on a daily basis for many different situations, allows us to build in that conditional logic that helps save so much more time.
Totally.
And that's really what I'm excited about in terms of building these forms for our users.
I was actually thinking of that. I went to a new doctor last week, and they gave me the packet to fill out, and it was like every page I was filling out the same information. Every page it was just like, who's your health insurer? What's your member number? What's your subscriber number? Is the person that's visiting the same person that's on the card? It's like over and over. It was a drag, really. And so anything to reduce that kind of friction, I think, is just really welcome. And there's so much of it in insurance.
There is. My specialty is high net worth personal lines, and we have clients that have 10 homes. And so we have a form that has not 10 yet, but we have a form that has a place for 3 homes and a condo and a co-op and a renter's policy. So, you don't have to fill in the same stuff for every home that you own. And same thing on the renewal questionnaires. It's like, okay, you have 4 homes, or 3 homes or 2 homes. Let's save some time in this process of going through the renewal.
Yeah. I just want to know what that person does that ended up with the 10 homes. That's always my first question. What industry?
It varies.
They created a forms platform? Interesting. Okay.
Right. But yeah, I think the conditional logic is extremely helpful, and that's really where we as agents can make a difference in the customer experience as well. For example, on the home form, if someone's doing a renovation, diving into all those subsequent questions that underwriters want to know about that renovation. How much does it cost? Who's the contractor? Is there a waiver of subrogation? And so getting into all of that is really going to help smooth out that process and get it all done typically in one shot rather than doing all the back and forth.
I wonder too, so you came at it as a founder with a lot of industry knowledge, but maybe not as much technical knowledge. How was bridging over to somebody helping you develop it? How'd you keep track of that process? Was it easy? Was it hard?
That's great. It's a great question. I was very fortunate. My brother is a programmer, and he built a company called MemberMouse, which is a platform that allows companies to build membership-based websites. So, he was a great mentor for myself in this process. He connected me with some great developers that he's familiar with. And so having that connection really enabled me to dive in very quickly and gain a better understanding. And I've been talking to him for years. So some of that tech mumbo jumbo has rubbed off on me.
For good or for bad. No, it's that's just the hard part, right, Nick? I don't know, like keeping technical people accountable. I'm not saying they're out there preying on non-tech people, but I just think it's so helpful.
And it's a good point. There was a tool that we used along the way called Asana, ASANA.com. And this is a project management tool. And that was extremely helpful in terms of, him keeping me on task, me keeping him on task. But ultimately, the relationship between myself and my tech team is huge, and it's, meeting them in person, getting to know them, building that partnership, because it is a partnership. the creativity is in my head, and I have to be able to explain that to them and convey that to them in a way that they know how to deliver it online and through the tool. So
I find, Kurt, I find part of the biggest struggle when you have two, you're the SME in your field, they're the SME in their field. There's a language barrier. You have business requirements that you are looking to fulfill, but I know, like on our end, when we deal with technical people, I actually don't know necessarily what the solution is. So I'm also looking for them for a little bit of guidance, and that's where the struggle comes, because they need you start to discuss it, they start to develop something, it could go askew really fast if you're not on top of it. And I find that where it has worked best is where there's a lot of give and take. I think more meetings are better, more discussion, more iterations are better to get that flavor. And I think the biggest thing that we struggled with is that we didn't necessarily have the solution in our head. So we were a little bit leaning towards our technical people to look at what it was that we were doing and kind of point out, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And that's not necessarily how it worked out. Right.
Yep. No, you're exactly right. And, I just go back to, it's a partnership, just like working with an insurance company. It's getting to know them, getting to know who you're dealing with and what the best way to work with them is, their personality, and recognizing that they are not going to have all the answers right off the top of their head. Because when you're creating a software, it's the Wild West. Could go so many different ways. There's so many different options in that process. So it's really just being patient, trying to convey as clearly and succinctly as possible what you're trying to accomplish.
And then you'd mentioned meeting in person and building that in-person relationship too. I think that's huge just from a substantive communication standpoint. I always say like an hour in person makes up for like a year of digital and online and stuff, I feel like.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it does. And
this is good
too. Certainly brings the relationship to another level. But with the tools like Asana and even RiskRevu to a certain extent, I have clients that, I've spoken with on the phone and I send digital forms to, and the relationship is great. And as long as I provide in a responsive way what the client is looking for, then they're a happy and satisfied client. And so that's, as an agent, that's what I look to deliver to keep my retention rates high.
I've kind of a funny question, but so I kind of built my brokerage or startup more or less on the fly. It's kind of like circumstantially is like, okay, we're going, let's put this plan together. When I hear 60 users, 15 agencies in, 4 or 5 months, what was your buildup like? What was your prep? Sounds like you were organized and it was, okay, let's start. And then maybe what were some of the surprises out the gate, I guess would be the other question.
So it was probably less organized than maybe it seems.
It seemed organized.
I think my mission, purpose, vision for my career has always been just be a subject matter expert.
Okay.
Get deep on what I am passionate about, which is serving my clientele, in the best possible way and delivering value. And so, everything I do is to deliver value to my clients at the end of it. And RiskRevu is an offshoot of that thought process. It's like, okay, I'm building all these forms for myself, and I probably built 50 individually through a different platform before I built RiskRevu. And then I'm like, everybody else should use this too. So I'm like, let's just build it so everybody else can use it too. So, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, on all these platforms, I've always just been trying to go deep on the subject matter and delivering value. And that's really all the growth has been organic.
That's cool.
So, and to your credit, Nick and insurance nerds, the demo that we did together brought us into clients, within 2 days, and they're still with us. So, and there's other clients that came through organic search and some other means, but most of it's just me doing my daily thing, and someone hears about it.
That's cool.
I mean, how often it happens so often, right? Where it's like you're doing your day-to-day thing, and you're just like, this is a problem for me. I'm going to solve it. Hey, I bet about a bunch of other people could use this solution as well. I mean, that happens all the time.
What was that kind of the impetus behind like Rethought? Was it like flood insurance can be done better? There's all this underutilized data. How do we be more comprehensive?
No, well, it was the frustration with I didn't get the answers I was looking for. So, when on my side, just dealing with flood, no one could explain to me why it couldn't be underwritten. It was always just like, oh well, there's potential for catastrophic exposure. And I said, well, like, wouldn't that be the same for Florida wind? And the last time I checked, there's 100% take-up rate for wind coverage in Florida. So, what's good for the goose, right? Like, if that holds, then if we can write Florida wind, then we can certainly write flood, right? And that was my feeling, but I couldn't get anyone to kind of take that seriously. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, if I don't do this, I don't think it's going to get done.
And your whole thing is like trying to pay claims and meet needs. You're like, these people don't have the protection in place. We're not doing the purpose of our business,
Oh, no. I think from my end, it was, as I started to dig into it, I realized, 90+% of all of the properties in the United States are low risk for flood. So why don't they have coverage? Like, they're low risk. It's not that this catastrophic exposure that you see every time that there's a hurricane. That's a small percentage of the overall property inventory. So that was my thinking, was this is not nearly as bad as everybody thinks it is. When most of the floods that actually occur, it's like an inch or two of water gets into the property. That's not catastrophic. It's a nuisance. So.
It had me paranoid. It's been raining pretty good in Southern California. A little plant behind the house is like flooding, and I'm like, oh no, it's gonna get on the patio. It's gonna sneak into the house.
I saw that.
It's funny, but there's
it's a good point.
Yeah,
it's a very good point. And why isn't flood just an endorsement for some of these preferred flood zones? Why can't we just charge an extra $50 on the policy? And that times 90% of the properties all across the country will make that program sustainable. And then the high risk properties, they have a different premium.
Yeah, exactly.
Better for everyone than two. It's all spread out, and then you don't have your weird unexpected places where people really get hurt because there's just no protection in place. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Kurt, you're in Connecticut. You Patriots fan?
I am not. I grew up in New Jersey, and I am a Giants fan.
Oh, sorry about that.
Football Giants.
Yeah. We're waiting for our next time.
You got to replace your quarterback, and then you'll have some of the best athletes on the field.
That's what they say. Yeah.
Are they expected to draft a quarterback?
I don't know. I think it's time.
We should get the little young Oklahoma kid, little 5'11" guy, just slinging, running around out there.
Yeah, I think he has a baseball career though.
Yeah. It's gonna be another Bo jackson.
I don't think the leagues will allow. I don't think the teams will allow that anymore. I just, especially the baseball team. After what happened to Bo, they're just like, no thanks. Too much of an investment.
I haven't watched it yet, but they're talking about the Deion Sanders 30 for 30, where he plays for the Braves, and then the Atlanta Falcons as well. Looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty phenomenal.
He landed in a helicopter.
Yeah. Neon Deion, that guy's special.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick's pumped. I owe Nick some burritos for the Patriots beating. Los Angeles has had a tough year. It's a couple major platforms to get a little beat up on, but it's all right. Yeah, we're back.
I don't know if you saw the game last night, but
Yeah, that was fun.
The
Yeah.
the Lakers beat the Celtics at the buzzer.
I told my buddy, I'm actually a Celtics fan. I was told my friend Mike that we're just taking pity on the Lakers after they lost by 45 to the Pacers with no Oladipo. So we're
Yeah.
just trying to be
Yeah.
nice to him. I thought the New Orleans thing, and speaking of floods, maybe we could tie it back that way. But the Pelicans totally trolling the Lakers and pretending like they're going to trade for Anthony Davis when they never had any intention, and just causing like disruption in the locker room was pretty amazingly like Machiavellian and silly. It's pretty good.
I saw the tweets regarding that, and it's like the not only do the Pelicans want half the team, but they also want Clayton Kershaw, Todd Gurley, like they just the Hollywood sign. They're just like listing all of these things that, in addition, that they want. It was actually fun to watch because I don't like the Lakers at all. So
It was pretty funny.
I hope they crash and burn. Kurt, how's it going
Sorry,
on
I
the?
can't contribute to this.
You
I'm going to see a UConn game tomorrow, so
Yeah.
I'm excited about that, and I think they're going to win. So we'll see.
Kurt, how is it going in the private client space?
Excellent. So I think I use 1 to 2 forms a day with my clients, whether it's a new home or a new package account or adding a car. We have a form when a client moves a house into an LLC or a trust. There's several questions the underwriters want to know about that, so I use that quite frequently. So 1 to 2 times a day, I'm using the system.
That's cool.
Other agencies that are with us, there are a couple that are high net worth focused, are very active as well. And our package form is one of the most popular ones where clients can do a full account all in one form, where it's the home, auto, umbrella, valuable articles, watercraft, and so that's being used quite a bit. And then we also have the annual renewal questionnaire form is being used by them as well, which typically 30 days or 45 days ahead of renewal, an email is sent with a link to the form to start the renewal process.
You can automate that send?
You can, absolutely. So not through RiskRevu, but through a management system or through another tool that can automate those emails. All you do is add the link to the email message.
That's perfect.
So it's working very well, and I think the forms are interchangeable between high net worth and call it middle market because of conditional logic. Conditional logic is smart enough to identify what you're working with.
And I think people kind of dog on being in personal lines these days. I still think anytime you get north of $100,000 of income for a family, you're going to want somebody to have an extra set of eyes on it, and you're going to want to work on it anyways. Maybe those one-off 25, 50, 25 policies kind of go to the way of like automation, but I still feel like people of means are going to want advice. That's how they get means. They take advice well.
Absolutely, I agree, and I think we just have to do it more efficiently.
Yeah, whatever price Kurt's paying or Kurt's charging, I think is a small price to pay. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I don't have the time to, I'm a subject matter expert. I don't have the time to deal with I have a renter's policy and I have an auto policy and an umbrella. I don't have time to deal with those. It's like,
right.
I want my agent to deal with that, and I'll give instruction where necessary. But otherwise, if a ring or something pops up, even though I'm SME, a ring doesn't fall into that. I'm more of a cat guy. So when I have a ring or some kind of document that I would like to protect, I'm reaching out to my agent. Like, what do I do about this?
And it should be an email, and they should take care of it for you. That's part of that 10 to 15%, or whatever your percentages you get as an agent.
I just switched cars. My daughter came home from school, so I got a used car, and I switched it up, and I just sent an email and said, put this car with this VIN, same coverages, just switch them, and it was done that day. So to me, it's money. Whatever Kurt's charging, it's probably very valuable.
And I could just tell you, it's $9 a month. for an individual license for one user, $29 a month for up to 10 users, and $49 a month for unlimited users. And so an agency that has 10 people in their personal lines department, everybody can have it, their own platform, their own profile, their own forms for $29.
Yeah, if it saves you a half an hour, you've already made a, you know.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I mean, to me, I see this all the time where people are penny wise and pound foolish.
Mm-hmm.
They start taking on or doing these additional tasks where it's just like, well, I don't want to pay for this, but they never take into account the amount of time, you know, that they're spending. And it's like, if you're making, you know, $50, $100 an hour on average, you know, that adds up.
The only reason why I think you want to do sort of menial tasks as a potential manager, the maybe agency owner, is to be a good leader. You want to know from the bottom to the top. But outside of that, you know,
Yeah, I
use
agree.
your time well, you know.
I agree.
Well, the interesting thing, we just created a producer issuance form to standardize the issuance process, because we were finding that there was a lot of challenges between we have a person that can quote and issue the policies, and then there's a producer. And so there was a lot of miscommunication and details left out. So we created a form to help producers issue their policies.
That's cool.
It asks all the questions, and so the person who's issuing the policy gets a form with all the details filled out. The producer knows what they asked for, everybody's on the same page, and there's less errors, and it's more efficient. So we're doing external forms with clients. We're also doing internal forms with the agency to help improve the workflows.
It's cool. It's evolving.
Awesome.
As it should.
Evolving.
Right.
Anything that can be digitized should be.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
Everything else, do it in person.
I was gonna say, you get more person-to-person time. It actually, I think, strengthens what you're supposed to do as an agent. You know, that's what it's about.
Well, this whole thing started with the renewal questionnaire, and I
Mhm.
was trying to improve that process. And so I built a form so that I didn't have to ask all the questions over a telephone call. Instead, I could spend that telephone call or in-person meeting responding to the form and responding to the answers that they provided in the form and providing advice. And that
That's
works.
cool.
Or losing on the golf course.
Or losing on the golf course, or watching a basketball game.
Potentially losing. Try to keep the client happy. Just,
Yeah.
I don't even have to try to lose.
Yeah.
It comes naturally.
That's right.
As it does for me.
I'm very handicapped.
Very naturally.
All right, driving range. Next time you're in SoCal, Nick, we'll have to do it.
Awesome. Yeah, of course.
Mini golf. That's where I belong.
Well, I feel bad stealing you guys on a weekday. I don't want to hold you too long today. It's you know.
Yep.
Got a few more things to button up, I bet.
We purposely cut these at half an hour, Kurt.
Yeah.
That's about as much bandwidth some of the audience members need to listen. So we'll respect your time on this.
Yeah, but appreciate you coming on.
Thank
It's
you.
fun hearing the update, and yeah, look forward to hearing how things go. We'll have to check in again in a couple months. Yeah.
Absolutely. I look forward to it, and thank you for being a client, Brett, and
yeah, absolutely.
time today, and really enjoyed this. Thanks,
Cool.
Nick.
Talk to you soon.
Yep. Have a good weekend, guys.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Later.